Pals out there. This is Larry and Brian from
Hey, everyone.
GeekyKOOL.com. We are here to talk to you about the first day of Planet Comicon and what all happened here. And I'm checking real quick to see. Looks like we've got our streams up and going. So I want to make sure that it's working not only for Facebook but also for YouTube out there. Hopefully it looks like it is. Okay, very good. So we also have Naked Mike over there. You can't see him right now, but
he's naked.
you don't want to see him right now. Hopefully he will add in some comments here and there.
His disembodied voice coming into the video.
Exactly. Elena may be disappointed because Dick and Mike's not on here. But hi, Elena. Hopefully you're watching. Anyway, so basically, today started off with us. Actually, we had a terrible time with our room in Kansas City, and actually got that taken care of to where we're in a different room, same hotel, different room, but at least we got taken care of because that was we had a bad experience with a smoke-filled room, not as in a fire, but as in somebody smoking cigarettes or something. I don't know, maybe cigarettes, maybe something else there. All right. That's not better. That's worse. All right, there we go. I'm trying to sit back and then.
You're good. You're good.
All right. So we did that. We went and found a parking spot early. Went out to Planet Comicon and got in line to get our press passes. It took us a little while to get those.
Number 3 and number 4 on the floor.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Exactly. And Naked Mike got clothes on, and he wasn't in the press pass line because he doesn't like to come do videos. And anyway, so hey, Naked Mike, he's watching out there. Even though he's in the room with us, which is kind of odd and weird. Hopefully he'll again say something. So so we made the floor pretty early, but the floor didn't open until 1 o'clock this year, which is way different than years before.
It's very different.
It seems like it was.
But they stayed open later because normally they close at 6 the floor on Friday
or 7. Sometimes it's been 7, but yeah.
And they left the floor open until at least 8.
Right.
So.
And they had panels going on right up until 8, and then actually there were some things afterwards.
Movies they were showing.
Couple movies, some other things. We didn't actually attend those. We were actually pretty hungry by that time. But so, what do you think of the first day? So it was different than last year, but what do you think of first day, Brian?
It was good, but there were some disappointments. A lot of the comic artists are not doing any signings at all for free, which is very disappointing. That there was quite a few of them that would do one for free and then charge after that. But then you have Doug Mankey, who would sign whatever you brought to him. And happily sign.
Right. Now there were some artists that would do it for free with a caveat.
You had to have it personalized, so they had to write to someone on the book. Yeah.
And that was mainly so people aren't just getting them signed and then turning around selling them for more money and making money off of their signature without them getting a benefit of that. I get that.
And I completely understand the whole idea that once they sign it, the value of the book typically goes up a lot, and so they should be able to share. But the other side of that argument is I paid good money for the book that paid you in the long run.
That's true. I mean, there's truth in that. Now, if you're going to be using me to get more money, then I can understand that. So I don't have a problem with that as much. Now, making me pay for comics, actually I paid $40 for comics to be signed. So that's a lot for me to sign.
And that was because Claremont doubled his price for signing.
Chris Claremont, who was there again, and I really like Chris Claremont. And I actually have a little news to break here about Chris here in a moment. But yeah, I ended up paying $30 for comics to be signed. Last year he was charging $5 a comic, and I brought 3 things I really wanted him signed, and it had gone up to 10. And then right next to him was Bob McLeod, who was the artist on some of those books, on a lot of the early on New Mutant books and some other things that I had that I wanted signed. And so that he was charging $5, so that added, because I had 2 books for him to sign, and that added some more. So, but there were
disappointments like Dennis Cohen.
Yeah.
Wanted $5 a book.
No matter
I
what.
mean, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I didn't need my question book signed that
Right.
big. And the one that really was disappointing was Oliver Coipel,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been doing stuff I guess for Marvel for a while, but I only know him because of the Magic Order with Mark Miller,
Mm-hmm.
and he was charging $5 no matter what, and I just was disappointed by that. Like I said, not Gary Frank. Um,
Mankey.
Mankey
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
signing whatever, and his
Yeah.
inker that he always works with right beside him, he signed happily. Patrick Gleason, which is kind of odd because last year I had like 5 or 6 books and he happily signed all of those.
Mm-hmm.
This year was one book for free
Mm-hmm.
and $5 each after. But at least he was doing one book for free.
Right.
Gleason's got to be big enough that
Yeah.
maybe he
Right.
feels like
Well,
he
with
needs
the
to do
Superman
that.
stuff,
So,
right?
yeah.
And part of that is to keep people from bringing in the 30 books at a time
Right.
for you to sign and then backing up the line.
But
So
I always liked the 3
yeah.
because last year with Snyder and Capullo, it was 3.
Right.
And
Right.
unless they liked you, like Snyder did with me, and he signed 2 more books
Yeah.
for me for free. But
Right. Right.
but we got talking because I brought him AD, and
Right.
he hadn't signed one in a long
Forever.
time.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
for a little
Right.
while.
Right.
And,
Well, and it was kind of like with Palmati and Amanda Connor. They were together because they're married. They're a married couple, and they were signing books. They have some books that they do together. Harley Quinn, and I think there's some other ones they've done together. And then they've got books that are separate. And so basically, the first signature for each of them was free.
excuse me, everyone.
And
Wow,
then an extra signature was going to be $5. So I had brought a few things for Amanda Connor to sign because she's been doing some covers for Captain Marvel, one of my favorite comics. And so I brought a Harley Quinn that I really wanted signed by both of them, and then I had brought some Amanda Connor covers. I at least wanted one, so I was willing to. And this is before I went over to Claremont, willing to pay for one of them because I'm like, okay, $5, and then I thought to myself, maybe I'll get Brian's help or get Naked.
Naked Mike.
Naked Mike's help on it, or
Because he's naked.
Because he's naked, and or maybe I can come tomorrow and they won't remember me. Something, but maybe I can get a couple more signed. But I wasn't too worried about it. I wanted number 1 signed by Amanda, and the really cool thing at that point, the line wasn't very long, and so I had them sign. They signed together and they posed for me. They took a nice picture, and then I handed her the other one. I said, "No, that's $5," and she goes, "Oh, don't worry about it." And it was really nice. And
well, it's kind of like Snyder was with me last year.
It was one of those things, and now if the line had been super long, and they were waiting, that may have been different. But it was something I wanted, but it was really nice of her just to go ahead, whatever.
Right.
I mentioned some news Claremont broke, so I was in Claremont's line, and as we talked, I spent a lot of money in Claremont's line, at least money for me. Now, going to see one of the stars, going to see Shatner's $80, I didn't drop that kind of money, but I dropped $40 right over there, and that's pretty much my whole money that I was bringing for the whole thing. So I'm kind of out of cash, but that's okay. So what Claremont was saying, because I handed him a comic he had not seen in a while, which was Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries, and asked him to sign number 1 issue because it was one of those miniseries that meant a lot to me when I was reading. And Kitty Pryde is my favorite X-Men character. She's just awesome. Unlike Tara from the Titans. Anyway, that's an inside joke for people about the whole X-Men and Titans of the '80s. They said
the Titans were really ripping off.
They were copying the X-Men, and the X-Men were copying the Titans. Whatever. But anyway, so she's one of my favorite characters. And the big news that Claremont said is he is working on a book, or actually just finished writing the book, and it has gone to the artist. The artist has done all the work except for the last issue, and they were getting ready to turn that in. And it comes out in June, but a Wolverine Kitty Pryde new miniseries is coming out. Very exciting for me. So I'm real excited. That's something we've not seen those two just team up by themselves since the very early 80s when Kitty was like 13, which was a really interesting series because you have this cold hard killer and you've got the sweet innocent 13-year-old Kitty Pryde.
Pre-Dragon.
pre-Dragon. It was because it was pre
I do
Secret
know about the
Wars.
Dragon,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm
The
not much of a
Dragon
Marvel
came.
guy, and I know
The
about the
Dragon
Dragon.
came in Secret Wars. Came because of the Secret Wars. I think the Dragon came. If I remember that right. Now
Was
she
it
did. She
long?
didn't.
Was it around that long?
She
'Cause I
didn't
only know
actually
him from
go
from
on the Secret Wars.
Excalibur.
Right. But the Dragon had been around. I don't. Maybe not. Maybe because she didn't end up somehow going with the X-Men because Peter Colossus ended up with another girl on Secret Wars world
Oh,
because
teenage angst.
Kitty wasn't there. It was teenage angst because Claremont can write teenage angst better than the CW. Um. Anyway, so
No one does teenage angst better than the CW.
Claremont did, and I think Wolfman did too pretty well for Titans. So that was the news that I had. We also went to some cool panels.
We did.
Now, in the line, did you hear any news or any gossip or anything cool that any of the artists or writers were saying? Because I had a lot of them talking to me. A lot of them were chatting about things, about upcoming events. But
I'm not talking about
really
upcoming
big.
stuff. I thought it was cool that a lot of them were like, "Oh, I remember this book. This was my first team up book."
Right,
and that kind of stuff. But no, the only news that I saw was posted in the online. Keith Giffen said he's got some big plan coming up with DC, and more news to come soon. But nothing really broken.
He didn't say that in
No, he didn't. It was online in his bio.
Okay.
Of course, maybe that's what his bio says all the time.
That may be true. Well, and he was at one of the panels that we were at. He's actually very, very funny on the panel.
Very funny.
And I went over and talked to him. He was another one who was signing one book for free.
Yeah.
And I got my one book. I've got several others. I may or may not take back with me. But yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting news.
Oh,
yeah.
Keith Giffen told me that I gave him Justice League #1, and you can always tell who signed first because if him or Kevin McGuire signs it, the first one will always sign it on the left-hand side of the page in the same spot, and then the other one will sign it on the right-hand side, so you can always tell. So he says, I'm the first one to sign yours, and when you go find Kevin McGuire one of these days, he'll sign it right over here on the other side.
Well, that's kind of cool. Yeah, that's kind of a fun thing to find out. Yeah. Oh, Giffen's a lot of fun. He's a character.
Well, he's it's interesting meeting him for the first time.
Yeah, right.
He has a lot of like nervous twitches and tics and stuff like that.
He's very thin, and he's an interesting guy. I really liked him, but yeah, he definitely has some interesting characters, which would make some really interesting writing. And actually,
which he has some very odd, interesting writing.
Well, and the funny thing
his
is,
art style
he writes very angry. He
likes to kill off his characters.
He likes to kill off his characters.
He's one of the creators of Lobo, which he does not like to write because he likes to be able to kill his characters, and Lobo...
Well, he doesn't like the popularity that Lobo got to, so he couldn't kill him. Right.
Well, he can't kill him anyway. It's Lobo. You can't kill Lobo.
Yeah, that's true. So, but he wanted to try. But yeah.
Oh, we did find out that there's a secret as to why Lobo likes dolphins. Space dolphins.
Yes.
But he was advised after telling an audience at one convention why Lobo likes dolphins that he's not allowed to tell anyone else why Lobo likes dolphins ever again.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, then or even on Facebook, and you know that answer on why because you were at that convention, let us know.
We would love to know.
We would love to know. We'd love to write an article about that. That would be awesome. I don't think that Mr. Giffen could really confirm or deny it at this point, but yes, it would be a lot of fun to know.
And the one thing that we found out while we were there was a young lady sitting right beside Mark Bagley and across the aisle from Keith Giffen, and her name was Jamie L. Botero, and that is her business card. The reason I have a picture of her business card was she was just at C2E2, her first convention ever.
First convention ever going to, right.
And Planet was her second convention, and someone stole all of her stuff. Her business cards, her backup business cards, most of her stock, and most of the cash that she had got while she was there selling things. She had 15 of each because they were of her artwork copies because they were in her car, and that just broke my heart
Well,
that someone
yeah.
who's trying to break into this business would have had an experience like that.
A very bad, poor
Very
experience.
bad
Yeah.
experience.
Well, and from my understanding, what she said was they left everything on her table there. So there's a little bit of stuff on her table that to draw people in.
They need
Any
to
of the
sneak
stu-
back around behind and
Right,
steal.
right. And then they picked the lock on her case of whatever she had in there,
Right.
and took all of her art, including all this original art that was worth over $1,000 easily. And so very sad. So we like to send her our support and check her out. She has some cool stuff, and hopefully she can get back up and going. But yeah, check her out, and
We'll
we're gonna
post some more information.
we're going
about
to tell her
on that.
story a little bit more. Hopefully, have an interview with her. Also, she had mentioned that she's doing a book for kids with autism, which is a really cool thing to do. I mean, you don't hear about that sort of thing, that people are going to focus on kids with that are on that autistic spectrum, and these books are going to be designed for them to reach, which is a really cool thing. So I'm excited to hopefully be able to talk to her in the future and get an interview and be able to promote that book when that comes out. So that'll be really cool. So we did attend several panels, or a few panels, and we attended one about characters in space.
That was
superheroes
Keith Giffen and Cullen Bunn and Jason Aaron and Jim Starlin.
Jim Starlin, right? And that was, and I actually have got notes from some of the quotes that they had. I didn't, in those sort of sessions, you can't just type things out directly, but I was able to type out some of their quotes that I thought was interesting. So I'll be posting those a little bit later tonight from that session. But there was a lot of fun of a panel. Again, I've seen Aaron and Cullen Bunn together before, and they're great because they feed off each other. But the interesting thing, I didn't realize that Giffen and Starlin would feed off each other quite a bit. They did. It was a lot of fun because they're more veteran.
A lot more veteran.
Yeah, right. Right. Cullen Bunn and Aaron are
Keith
are
Giffen
both.
is a longtime Legion of Superheroes artist. He
And
his first claim to fame was the Great Darkness Saga.
Mhm.
He was the
Right,
artist there,
right.
and if you look at that and you look at the way he draws now, I mean, it's like night and day. It's so
Right.
different. He went more. He learned to draw, I think, more with the Jack Kirby style of
Right.
artwork, more abstract and things like that, and even more odd when he started doing more of the later Legion stuff.
Right.
And
Right.
and and then Jim Starlin's been around, just as
time.
long,
Yeah, right.
creating stuff for Marvel and then for DC
And then on his own, because he had several things he's done.
Dreadstar, which he
Dreadstar,
published
yeah.
through Marvel for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But that's his
And
own
then
creator.
Epic, and there was
Yeah.
first comics. Now he's just doing stuff on his own. But yeah, it's some really interesting discussions. They were a lot of fun to listen to. So when asked on why they like to do characters in space, Jim Starlin was the first answer on that, and his answer was because I don't have to draw horses and cars. And it was followed up by Giffen saying that, and I forget what the rest of it was, and you don't have to deal with people. No, I can't remember.
Well, the other comment Starlin made was that it's easier to write a story on a strange planet where you didn't have to worry about whether or not you were going to offend people on Earth.
Right,
because
right.
it always ends up offending someone, because someone's religion, someone's belief, someone's sexual preference, whatever it happens to be.
Right.
It's easier because you put them on a planet that no one can say, well, you're just talking about me.
Right.
And
but Giffen had said something else as a caveat to that first one with Starlin. I don't remember what it was. I'm pretty sure I've got that written down. So
and then Jason Aaron announced that that's the kind of stories he likes to write.
Right.
Horses in cars.
Right.
In space.
Exactly. Yeah. And Colin Bunn kind of likes it too, because Colin likes his Pegasus. So he said, I like the Pegasus. The flying horses in space. I don't know. So, and there was a lot of fun banter back and forth. Colin Bunn jokingly talked about how when there were certain characters getting used that he wanted to be able to use, he'd throw books around his house and be mad and stomp around. And he's joking. I'm sure he does get mad because
And
I've
I
known
don't know
Colin a
who the
little while.
reference is that Cullen kept going back to. What was the character that he kept
Um,
wanting to use and he didn't get to because Jason Aaron was
was
using
using
them?
them right. I forget
And
who it was. Now the really funny thing, we ran
Crystal,
into
some Crystal.
Chris. Oh yeah, Crystal. Yes.
Yeah,
I'll
I
have to
don't know.
look it up. Now here's the funny thing. I ran into one of my friends from growing up, who grew up with me all the way from kindergarten up to high school, and he was one of the people that helped. My father got me into collecting comic books, and this friend actually taught me kind of how to truly collect and not just read and roll them up and put them in my back pocket. So my friend John Paul was there, and he actually made the comment afterwards. He goes, "That was hysterical because I've got that whole run." So he not only knew who the character was, but he's got the whole run. But John Paul, what did he say? He has like 16,000
Oh,
comics.
he says had 60 long boxes. I
60
thought I
long
had a
boxes.
lot of comics.
He does have a lot.
I have
He's always had a long
24
of
long
comics.
boxes,
Yeah.
and I thought that was a lot because that's like 9,500 comics.
So
And he said his collection is somewhere around 16,000,
yeah,
which
yeah.
that maybe it's not all long boxes, but
Right,
he
right.
swore he has 60 boxes of comics. I'm like,
And from growing up with him, his family had the most money in the area, sort of thing, and he never flaunted it. It wasn't like he was that kid, but he would, get to buy a lot more comics than I got to
right,
buy. So,
right.
and he loved comics, and that's one of those things that bonded us because we both loved comics and we both loved all sorts of crazy, weird stuff. We were true geeks. So shout out to John Paul if for some reason he's watching this. Hopefully he is. The really funny thing is, I gave him a card like 3 years ago to go to my website. Still hasn't been to Geeky Cool. So hopefully somehow he finds this. Maybe his wife, Vicky, will find it. She said she's going to go look at it. Anyway, so we did that panel. We did the panel.
And then we did the
tribute to Stan Lee.
remembering Stan Lee, which was
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah,
Because Jimmy Palmiotti can do the perfect Stan Lee,
right. Yes.
the perfect Stan Lee.
Yeah, and Chris Claremont's not far behind.
Not far behind.
And Chris Claremont could. I think Chris Claremont had not only had more history with Stan to do it, but also had some of the words that Stan may have used perfectly. Now the accent and the sound of it, Palmiotti nailed. Amanda Connor was there also, and she had a lot of fun.
We did find there was breaking news. Found out that Amanda and Stan Lee slept together.
In the fact that they both went to a couch at a con, and
And fell asleep.
Amanda kind of went out, curled under the corner, and took a nap, and then she woke
10
up.
minutes later, woke
up
up
to
and
find Stan laying on the other side of the couch, sleeping.
curled
So-
up on the same end. Jimmy took a picture
Took
of
a
them
picture.
together.
So-
My wife and Stan Lee sleeping together.
One way to never get fired, right?
Some great stories came out of that, though.
Yeah, and really some, the stories that Claremont was telling about when he was 18 and he was in college and he started working for Marvel, and not only kind of how things worked, which was really interesting, but how Stan was still Stan even back then. He would call people up, so he called up,
True believer.
"Hey, true believer." I'm like, what? He did that then?
In 68.
I figured that was something that he kind of coined a little bit later for his caricature of himself that he would do out in public, but apparently that was Stan, so that's really kind of fascinating.
Yeah, there were some interesting stories there,
Yeah.
and then how they both shared in their first demise of no
Yeah.
longer being with Marvel
Right,
Comics,
right, not
and
having the position,
the
that they used to
backing,
have.
and
Yeah, right,
being the old guy and being basically kicked out.
right.
And Palmiotti's story was absolutely hilarious. He told the story about Stan Lee called him. They called him. He was at home. Called him to the offices. Sent him all the way up to the top floor of the building they were in, where Stan Lee's office was. He tells about remembering Stan Lee's office had these great big giant glass doors that were etched with a big Spider-Man on them.
Just the greatest character
Yeah.
ever. That's all.
And walk in, except for Superman, who's the start beginning of it all. Yeah. Anyway, we don't need dashes in our characters' names. But then, in front of all of the editors that were hired by Marvel, made him tell them exactly what they were doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy did, and thought he was going to be fired. And after the editors had all left, and stared him down,
and he was working with what, 5 of the editors?
Yeah, 5 of the editors
at that point. Yeah,
inking books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he Stan Lee told him, "Thank you for doing that. You'll always be working here as long as you want a job."
Right. As long as you're doing your job. Yeah, yeah.
And no, as long as you want a job.
Well,
because,
right. But he also said, but included in that was the fact that he knew he had to work, because that was one of Stan's. What was, because Chris Claremont told us there were 3 rules that you
write a good book, put it out on time, and don't screw up.
No BS or something. It wasn't don't screw up. There's no BS.
Yeah, and as long as you do it 2 of the 3,
you're going to keep your job, right? Which I thought was great, because some people were going to be kind of having some BS and some other things, but and they did want their books out on time. But
and if you could put out a book and no BS, it didn't have to necessarily be completely the greatest book that they were putting out.
Right.
He wanted it to be a good book.
Right.
But
Exactly. The other thing with Palmati was actually the story of where they first met, which was interesting, because when he met Stan, he had came into the office and he had only been working there a short time. He was just inking 2 books, and so he's walking down this hallway there on where the bullpen was, and he sees Stan Lee coming at him, and he doesn't know how to react or
am I supposed to call him Stan? Am I supposed to call him Mr. Lee?
Right. What do I do here? And Stan Lee comes up to him and says,
"Hi, Jimmy Palmiotti.
Yeah,
How are you?"
Yeah. He goes, "You're
Jimmy Palmiotti. You're doing a great job. Just continue doing it."
And of course he's going, "What? How does
Wait,
Stan Lee
he knows
know
my
me?"
name.
Right.
He was feeling pretty good about himself.
Right. And then Stan walks 10 steps and turns around and goes, "Hey, Jimmy, do you want to know how I know your name?" "Oh, okay."
Took out a little piece of paper he'd cut out of
Wizard
magazine that had his picture and his name underneath it, and he said, "I knew you were coming to the office. I had no idea who you were, but I figure I better be prepared so I can greet you like I needed to."
And he's like, "That way I can say, Jimmy Palmiotti." And that's just hysterical. So, and I don't know if anybody notices I'm wearing my Stan Lee shirt, so you can kind of see a little bit of it there. But that was a really good tribute to Stan Lee.
Yeah.
It was a really good day. It was very tiring. The other thing I noticed was
it's raining. It sounded like someone was dropping boulders on the convention center because it was thundering really loud.
The thunder was very heavy. The thing I noticed was a lot of the artists weren't always there. Now, a lot of them have panels they're doing and everything else. So I would go by places and people weren't there to sign books. So that was my only frustration, other than the cost that people were having, was that I didn't get everything signed I wanted today, because I wanted to be done. Because I had to have an extra little mini backpack with me to keep my books in to try to get signed, and they were heavy, and my back freaking hurts because I'm not young like Naked Boy over there.
Naked Mike.
Naked Mike, he's waving at us, by the way.
I should get that camera up and show him.
The way that he is laying there on that bed reminds me, if he only had a bear-skinned rug right there.
It's very Greek godlike, right?
So, Naked Mike, what do you think? What did you enjoy today? What were your disappointments? What were your excitements?
A great disembodied voice.
I agree with all your points.
Speak a little louder for us.
I agree with everything that both of you just said.
He says he agrees with everything we just said. That he's naked and that he's bearskin rug.
Greek god.
Greek god, yeah. And he has been working out for all you free ladies out there.
All the
Naked
single
Mike
ladies.
is all the single ladies. Yeah. So Mike has been working out, and
Every year, the last couple of years, we've tried to get Mike to do the dating game.
And we may still.
We offered to pay for it last year.
Well, I told him we'd pay for it again this year. I'm like, we'll pay for it. And
you're paying for it.
I might be. I won't have any cash. I hope they take cards.
Oh.
And the two girls who are holding the sign are pretty cute, Mike. So I don't know.
One was the owner of the dating.
She was the owner.
She does not participate. She informed us.
Well, maybe she'll make an exception for Naked Mike. I don't know. He's opening his books right now. Uh-oh.
There, see, not really naked.
So, anyway, yeah, so it was a good day. It was tiring. We did go out to eat afterwards. We went to eat some Kansas City barbecue and
Arthur
Bryant's.
Arthur Bryant's. That was yummy.
One of their downtown places.
About 3 times more food than anyone really needs to eat in a sitting.
It was delicious. So that was a great place to eat. Really enjoyed
$12 for 3 times the food that anybody who's 50 years old needs in caloric intake.
Yeah, that's true. So
good pickles though.
Good pickles. And white bread.
And white bread.
So that's
we met some really nice lady while we were standing in line who first made friends with Mike. They made friends with the rest.
We didn't tell her his name was Naked Mike. I don't know. Which did have an effect on.
If this is posted to Facebook, we may get demonetized because we keep saying the word naked.
Naked Mike.
N-E-K-I-D, naked.
Naked Mike. So, Elena was frightened and intrigued at the same time, I think.
But refused to shake his hand because she was afraid of where it had been. It was a very good day. So
we did go over one of my friends, Elena Irvin, who's an author, also known as M.W. Irvin, and great book series she's got there. She has a booth out there, so if you're in Planet Comicon tomorrow, Sunday, make sure you stop by and see her. She is a load of laughs. Also get to meet her manager. Her manager is wonderful. Lots of fun, a little sassy, but a lot of fun there. And she you'll have a good time. If you like hugs, Elena's a really good one to go see because she gives really good hugs. And she'll probably shake your hand.
She had a dog there big enough you could saddle and ride around the.
It wasn't her dog. Well, it was one of the people working with her. Yeah,
that was a huge dog.
It was. It was a really cool dog, though. Yeah.
It was like Marmaduke sized dog.
Well, I kept looking. I think it was Scooby Doo. So maybe that was it.
I think Marmaduke and Scooby Doo are kind of the same breed, aren't they?
Yeah, but.
Look that up for us, Naked Mike.
Hey, Naked Mike, do something useful over there. What are you sniffing?
It's not his fingers.
The inside story with Naked Mike is we've tried to get Mike to do things on these videos before, and he just refuses. And he refused last night, so we kind of coined him the term Naked Mike, even though he wasn't really naked.
Or was he?
That's a good question. Maybe not. Whatever. So, anyway, I don't know anything else we need to talk about. Tomorrow
we hope the rain stops.
Hopes the rain stops so we can get parking without getting too wet.
Or too ripped off.
I think tomorrow I'll probably spend quite a bit of time in panels and also finishing walking the floor. There's
some cool panels. They moved that CW panel. It was at the end of the day. They've moved it to the beginning of the day. So it's at 11:30. So it's
the one with Panda Baker and with
John Wesley's ship.
Right.
Is it
so that'll be a good one to see.
So,
yeah.
Yep.
So that we'll have
there's some good ones.
Make sure we get in there like a flash to see it. Anyway, so that's pretty much what we have for our review. I'll be posting a couple articles. I'm going to post about the Chris Claremont announcement that he made, even though he just made it to his line. He didn't make it in front of a panel. I'll go ahead and post that. I'm also going to get up some of the quotes from the panel we mentioned with the Outer Space Heroes, and go from there. And we will sign off now, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow. And it starts at 10 tomorrow. Is that right?
Doors open at 10 o'clock. That's
doors open when it goes till 8 also, or does it go to? I don't know. He's trying to look stuff up today. I'm asking him questions. So, but come out tomorrow if you're in the Kansas City area, or you can make it up because you'll have a good time. I
10
guarantee it.
a.m. to
And come and check us out. Come find us Geeky Cool guys and say, hey, I know you guys.
Yes,
are
till 8
Geeky
o'clock.
Cool. So 10 to 8. That's a really good time on the floor. It will probably be busy, but there'll be enough time to get everything seen and done you need to do. So come see some panels and have some fun with us.
Maybe even 8:30, because there's one of the things goes till 8:30. Stand up nerds.
Stand up nerd. There you go. You gotta like those stand up nerds. All right. So for Geeky Cool, I'm Larry.
I'm Brian.
And we'll see you later.
And that's Mike.
There's
Naked
Naked Mike. Yeah, over there.